Chapter 172, Ancient King Mystic Nether. With the help of the Diamond Sex Ancestor, Xu Qing found a storage bead hidden on the ancestor's corpse. This item was buried inside the body of the Diamond Sex Ancestor. There weren't many items inside, only 3. The first item was a spirit ticket that was worth 500 spirit stones. The second item was a jade box, which seemed to have the effect of nurturing medicinal pills. Xu Qing could see a purple-colored medicinal pill being nurtured inside. The third item was 3 jade slips that recorded the Diamond Sex cultivation art and the artifact spirit incomplete technique the ancestor had mentioned earlier. As for the storage bag used as a cover, it was filled with miscellaneous items that were worth about 100 spirit stones. As though he was worried that Xu Qing would be dissatisfied, the Diamond Sex Ancestor hurriedly spoke in a low voice. The Second Highness wanted too much last time, so there isn't much left now. Your storage bag from the Sex Treasure Vault was also a cover-up, Xu Qing slowly asked. Yes, the Diamond Sex Ancestor's body trembled as he whispered. Xu Qing didn't say anything. After destroying the corpse, he went to the ruins of the Diamond Sect and searched. He found the secret chamber that the Diamond Sex Ancestor had mentioned. It was also empty and there was only an array crossbow that looked like a magic tool. It was indeed, as the Diamond Sex Ancestor had said. This item was specially used on magic boats and could only be activated by a specific array formation. Xu Qing took a look and kept it. He continued to plunder the Diamond Sect. However, this place was too poor and the dead disciples didn't have anything valuable on them. Only the sect master, elders, and the others had slightly better things. Master, it was good that you killed them. These traitorous bastards had been secretly joining forces recently and were preparing to betray the sect when I went to seclusion. I originally planned to personally deal with them after some time. Xu Qing didn't care about the authenticity of the Diamond Sex Ancestor's words. He left after plundering, gradually disappearing into the snowstorm. Countless snowflakes fell from the sky, covering the entire red plains. The original red color of the ground had already disappeared and turned white. The wind was even more bone-piercing, sweeping up the snow, as though it wanted to seep the cold into every corner of the ground. This winter, many people would die. Xu Qing tightened his collar and sped through the wilderness. He didn't return to the scavenger campsite, but hurried through the night to the city at the edge of the Red Plains. I have to return to the 7 Blood Eyes as soon as possible. I can't stay here for long, Xu Qing muttered. As he spoke, a dark glint flashed in his eyes as he glanced at the leather pouch containing the black iron stick. Xu Qing had still not decided whether he should completely destroy the Diamond Sex Ancestor who had transformed into an artifact spirit. As he sped, he weighed the pros and cons in his heart while calmly asking about the Lichu sect. Sensing that his life was still not safe, the Diamond Sex Ancestor felt bitter and nervous. At the same time, he didn't dare to hide anything and told him everything he knew truthfully. The Lichu sect is a giant faction in the Nanhuang continent that is on par with the 7 Blood Eyes, Purple Earth, and True Words. Moreover, they are also based in the Wangnu continent. This branch in the Nanhuang continent is its branch sect. Their base is in Wangnu. Xu Qing glanced at the Diamond Sex Ancestor. Although he knew about the forces in the Nanhuang continent now, he clearly didn't know as much as the Diamond Sex Ancestor, who was a foundation-building cultivator. Hearing the hint of doubt in Xu Qing's voice, the Diamond Sex Ancestor immediately felt that it was time to show his value. Hence, he quickly spoke. Master, among the 4 major forces in the Nanhuang continent other than Purple Earth, which is a true native force, the foundations of the other 3 aren't in the Nanhuang continent. Among them, the 7 Blood Eyes you're in is the best example of this. The 7 mountain peaks seem to be one, but in reality, most of the mountain peaks are autonomous. It's just that they all identify with the rules of the 7 Blood Eyes and act under these rules. After many years, they gradually fuse together. The reason why this is the case is because the 7 mountain peaks of the 7 Blood Eyes are actually the 7 members of the 7 sects. Alliance in the Wangnu continent's human territory had joined forces to build a branch in the Nanhuang continent. Such branches are also established on other islands in the Endless Sea, where the human race lives. However, the Nanhuang continent is one of the largest islands in the Endless Sea, so the branch here is very powerful. As for the True Words, it's extremely mysterious and not too sure either. Xu Qing's eyes narrowed. This was the first time he had heard of these things. The Wangu Continent's 7-sex alliance? The Wangu Continent is too big. The human race only has a tiny space in it. However, even so, this space is extremely vast. I don't know how big it is because I haven't been there before. But I heard that the 7-sex alliance is only a relatively good superforce in the human race's inland coastal area. However, I think compared to the entire human race forces, it shouldn't be the strongest group. Of course, this is only relative. To me, one of the peaks of the Nanhuang Continent's 7 blood eyes is already a colossus. Xu Qing's heart was in turmoil. He lifted his head and looked at the distant sky. His understanding of this world had increased again. However, I know about the Lichu sect. It has believers in countless races in the entire world and its influence is extremely vast. All of this is because of its doctrine. The Diamond Sect's ancestor continued. The doctrine of the Lichu sect is to stay away from this cruel world. They fanatically believe in the ancient kings and sovereigns who left during the ancient times when the fragmented face of the god arrived. They believe that one day, the holy lands established by the ancient kings and sovereigns will bring them away. The reason why the Lichu sect has many branches is because in their sect record, it recorded that a total of 9 ancient kings and sovereigns left in ancient times to create holy lands. Therefore, the Lichu sect itself is divided into 9 major factions. They believe in different ancient kings and sovereigns. The various factions don't get along and think that the supreme being they believe in is the one who can truly bring them away. As for those great ancient kings and sovereigns, not only do they include humans, but there are also non-humans. This is also the reason why the believers of the Lichu sect are spread over the various races. Xu Qing's heart shook when he heard these words. As he rapidly digested them, he asked, "What kind of existences are the ancient kings and sovereigns?" The Diamond Sect's ancestor was stunned. He didn't know either, but he didn't want to reveal his ignorance when Xu Qing was still weighing his life and death. Hence, after thinking hard, he spoke. "I can't estimate the realm of the ancient kings and sovereigns, but have seen descriptions in some ancient books. The existences who once unified the Wangu continent and suppressed all races were known as the ancient kings. The experts who could fight against the ancient kings were known as sovereigns. Although they didn't unify Wangu, their forces were heaven-defying." A look of fascination appeared in Xu Qing's eyes, but he didn't speak. Seeing Xu Qing like this, the Diamond Sect's ancestor heaved a sigh of relief. In reality, he didn't know if this was true or false. After all, the ancient books he read were mostly storybooks. He hurriedly changed the topic and continued to introduce the Lichu sect. The highest existence in the Lichu sect is called Fate Arbiter. Legend has it that they aren't a cultivator of this world but came from a holy land. They are the spiritual leader of the Lichu sect and are extremely mysterious. As for the leaders of the 9 major factions, they call themselves saints. This sect in the Nanhuang continent is only a branch of the Mystic Nether faction. The true base of the Mystic Nether faction is in Wangu. They believe in the human Ancient King Mystic Nether. There are records in ancient books that before the god's fragmented face descended, there was an era called the Mystic Nether era. It was founded by the ancient King Mystic Nether who had led the human race to unify Wangu. Hearing the words of the Diamond Sect's ancestor, Xu Qing's thoughts fluctuated. He sped all the way until the dawn broke. As the sun rose, Xu Qing saw his destination from afar. The city that was filled with filth and chaos. The only city in the Red Plains that had a teleportation array. At this point, Xu Qing had already made a decision about how to deal with the Diamond Sect's ancestor. "What pill is that pill of yours?" "Ah, that's a spirit whale pill. The method of consumption is quite special and you can't consume it immediately. You need to nurture it in a jade box for 100 days and wait for it to melt." Calculating the time, there are still 3 days left. The Diamond Sect's ancestor looked at the distant city and hurriedly spoke. "I like silence," Xu Qing suddenly spoke. The Diamond Sect's ancestor shivered. Just as he was about to speak, a suppression from his life soul suddenly arrived and covered the black iron stick, directly injuring him, who was an artifact spirit, before sealing him. After the first layer of seal, Xu Qing was still not convinced. He increased the strength of his perception and suppressed the spirit layer by layer. Only then did he feel that it was safe. Under these layers of suppression seals, the Diamond Sect's ancestor turned extremely weak and was on the verge of dissipating. falling into a deep sleep. In the end, Xu Qing didn't choose to kill the diamond sex ancestor. The value of the artifact spirit made him decide to keep it and perfect his black iron stick. However, before he had more methods to keep it in check and before his cultivation broke through 2 foundation building, Xu Qing didn't plan to let it wake up. He was also prepared to erase it if it disobeyed. He took a deep breath after doing all this. He didn't enter the city ahead. Instead, he turned and sped in another direction. The reason why he muttered that he was going to return to the 7 Blood Eyes back at night was for the diamond sex ancestor to hear. Although the other party had transformed into an artifact spirit and had been honest the entire time, Xu Qing wouldn't believe him easily. The question about the medicinal pill was a verification, while returning to the 7 Blood Eyes was misdirection. For the former, if the diamond sex ancestor lied about the medicinal pill, Xu Qing would kill him. As for the latter, if the diamond sex ancestor had some special methods to divulge his tracks, it would be useless after being misdirected. This was because Xu Qing didn't plan to return to the 7 Blood Eyes for a while. Xu Qing continued to speed up. He even used a flight talisman. It was only when the night arrived that he finally looked for a hidden cave to rest in. He scattered poison powder at the entrance and covered it up. Only then did he sit down and take out the jade box where the diamond sex ancestor had stored the medicinal pill. Whether you live or die will depend on whether this pill is as you said. Xu Qing looked at the jade box. He then placed it in the distance and took a few steps back to observe his surroundings. After that, he pointed through the air. Immediately, the jade box slowly opened with a cracking sound, and a dense medicinal fragrance assaulted his senses.